Hello, thank you for stopping by. My name is Becky. I sit on my floor and I talk about books. Oh wait, no, that's Jackie who does that. But I'm sitting on my floor today. It's been a while since I sat on my floor, so I thought I would give an ode to my girl Jackie there. Anyway, today we're gonna do a weekly reads wrap-up. And I got 6 books to talk about, so this will be my longest weekly reads wrap-up yet. These are all the books that I have read from February 4th to February 10th. The first book I finished reading was The Witch Collector, which is an adult fantasy romance. This is a book that I've been wanting to give a try for the longest time because witches, duh. It's about Raina, who lives in this world where every harvest moon, this person called the Witch Collector comes in and he takes a witch to give to the Frost King. And Raina's sister was once taken by him to give to the Frost King. So she is out for revenge. But she has been sort of hidden. Her magic has been suppressed. And so she's never been chosen by the Witch Collector until the time this book starts. So she is out for revenge on the Witch Collector and the Frost King. And in journeying to get to the Frost King to kill him, she and the Witch Collector form a bond. They eventually become romantically interested in one another and all that. I liked the witch hunter relationship. That's a dynamic that I love to read about in books. I also thought this book had a different plot line. Like it had very similar plot lines to a lot of other fantasy romances, but it had enough differences to set it apart. I also really liked that this had mute rep with some sign language as well. And the two main characters, Raina and the Witch Collector, whose name I can't remember, they had good chemistry. This doesn't have a lot of spice to it. In fact, I think if there's even a smut scene, it's just one smut scene. But it was a slow build relationship development. However, I wasn't connected to any of the characters in this story. And this is a story that if I didn't have to write down in my notes like what the story was about so that I could reiterate it to you, I wouldn't have been able to do it because it was quite forgettable. So I think if you're interested in the story, you might as well give it a try, especially if you can find it like on audiobook through your library or if it's through Kindle Unlimited or something like that. It's not one that I would recommend paying to read because it's just not a standout story. Now I've heard that the second book is better, but I personally just wasn't invested in these characters' relationship dynamics and the plot of the story enough to want to continue this series. The next book that I finished was Wed to the Lich by Layla Faye. Now I read this for a very specific reason. It wasn't one that I have been wanting to read or anything like that, but I read it for a very specific reason. This is a monster romance about Virgil, who is the Lich. I did Google how to say it, but I've already forgotten how to say it, so I think it's Lich. Anyway, he's pretty much like a skeleton dead entity. But his species is diminishing, so in order to keep his species alive, he needs to marry somebody and continue on his species. So he applies for this arranged marriage and he gets paired with May, who is this very fragile young woman who is suffering from anorexia. And she feels like she is a very ugly person. She's been mentally abused to the point where she has body dysmorphia. But him being Skeleton Man, he finds her very beautiful. So he takes her, he protects her, he encourages her to love herself and get healthy and things like that, and it's their romance. So I liked that this had anorexia rep in it. That's not something I read a lot in stories. I liked the undead skeletal creature guy. I mean, I like skeletons. I liked that he had shadow magic, and this did have quite a few like sweet moments in it. The smut scenes in here were they were fine, I guess. They really didn't do anything for me. And just the story overall, I've just read better monster romances, but I read it for its intended purpose, and That's all I can say about it. I then finished a series. Yay me. I read Legacy Girl. This is the third book in the Elena Miller series, which is a vigilante romantic suspense. In this, we follow Elena and her group of people as they travel to Brazil because somebody who is like a mother figure to her who works for her, she has to go confront her almost cartel-like family in Brazil and sort of take over the family business after her father dies. So Elena and her crew go with her just to make sure nothing bad happens to her because she does have some like rivaling family members and stuff like that. And while they're there, lots of slicing and dicing and blowing up things happens. I really enjoyed this one. This is probably my second favorite. I think I still liked the first book the most. It had me laughing at times. There was an engagement scene that made me laugh. There was moments where Elena's dog gets hurt by some bad people, and she really doesn't put up with their shit. Don't hurt this girl's dog. I loved it. I thought this one had a much stronger plot than the second book as well, and I just liked the found family. I liked how Elena's actual family was brought into the picture, and she sort of had to do all her slicing and dicing and action while also pretending like she's not doing that for the sake of her family, because most of her family doesn't know that this is what she does. So this was a really good end to this series. I liked it. I definitely recommend it if you're looking for a no spice romantic suspense. This is definitely a good one to go with. I then read the best book that I've read so far this year. It is my first 6-star book of the year, and I was sort of waffling whether or not I should give it 5.5 stars or 6 stars because it was better than a 5-star for me, but I was like, is it too soon in the year to give a book a 6-star? But then I was like, fuck it, who cares? I loved this book. And that is The Wolf King by Atlee Wykes. This is the second book in her Inkwater Witch series, or her Inkwater series. The first book was The Inkwater Witch, which I read last year and really enjoyed. In this one, we are following Lowen, who is a wolf shifter who we met in the first book. And he is taking over his pack as alpha, but his pack is in some perilous times. They went through a really tragic war. Lots of people died. They are not very strong and wealthy. So in order to give his pack the resources that they need to strengthen them, he agrees to a marriage of convenience with an ice fae. And his ice fae wife, named Crystalline, which I just love her name, Crystalline. She goes by Chris. But she is entering into this marriage for reasons of her own. She is wanting information on the mother that she never knew she had, but her father is a very abusive and controlling man. And he has been doing some like sneaky shit on the side within the Fae Kingdom, and he uses Crystalline as a spy. So he forces her into this marriage so that she can spy on the wolf pack to make sure that they're not going to be strong allies to the Fae. They go back to his kingdom, and there she finds out that he has an adoptive daughter. She finds out the dynamics that led to him being alpha. As she meets people who become her friends, and she realizes that she really doesn't want to do what her father wants of her. So it puts some strain on not their relationship, because he never really finds out for quite a while, but it puts some strain on her because she wants to get the information that she wants about her mother, and she promised her father that she would do this, but in the meantime she's also starting to care for her new family. And there are some pack members who don't really want her there, don't really trust her because she's a Fae. So she really has to work within herself to figure out what she wants in life. Meanwhile, they are also working on their relationship. I loved so many things about this. First of all, I loved the unique fantasy romance. I loved the wolf shifter, Fae, witch relationship. I loved their chemistry. They had a really slow burn romance until about 50%. And then once you get past 50%, then it's much more smutty. I really like Crystalline's character because of her character growth. She also takes charge once their relationship reaches the sexual part of their marriage. She really introduces him to that because he is a virgin hero. He's never taken a mate or anything like that because his father was a very abusive man, and anytime he showed interest in another woman, his father would take that woman and make her his and really abuse her. I really liked Lowen's character as well. He is a very kind-hearted, a very compassionate alpha, but he's also very protective, and he's able to switch into a lichen form, which is essentially a werewolf form. This book did something I really appreciated in the fact that she is in the wrong in this story. She is the one who holds the secrets. And so when he finds out that, he is rightfully upset by that. And usually in books, they do this thing where the girl is in the wrong, and so the guy gets upset, and then the guy has to apologize for his reasons for being upset to get the girl back. I hate that so much because it's like, he has nothing to apologize for. He reacted in a reasonable manner to secrets that were kept from him. And in this book, it didn't do that. She was in the wrong, and while he had a reaction to that, she was the one who had to apologize to him. I loved the magic that is involved in here. It's ice magic, but there's also like earth magic as well. It's set in sort of a, not an enchanted forest, but just the setting is very magical in itself. Now, I wouldn't say that this book had a super emotional impact on me like a lot of 6-star reads that I give. I like tend to cry with the characters, or I feel their emotions. I didn't get that sense. The reason I gave it 6 stars is because I enjoyed so much about this book, and it's a book that even days after I finished reading it, I was still thinking about it, and I could not put this book down. I was going through a time where I could not get into any book I picked up. I DNF'd like 3 books before I picked this one up, and then this one, I just couldn't stop reading it. There was one thing that I was mildly disappointed with though, and that's the fact that he's a wolf, and he can like switch into a lichen form, but there was no like nodding or like body transformations in the smut scenes. So I was sort of disappointed with that, because with most wolf shifter romances I read, I get like a nodding aspect to it in the smut scenes, and I didn't in this one. So, but that's not to say that the smut scenes weren't good, because they were. Some of them were very tender, but some of them were very spicy as well. And I just think this is a highly underrated fantasy romance series that no one's talking about. I then listened to Shardless on audio. This is a fantasy romance that I just randomly found because I was looking for friends to lovers fantasy romances, and I saw this one and I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. It was on Everand, so why not? So in this, we're following a young woman named Tally. I believe she's 21. I think she's 21. But she is a human, and she has been living in this Fae realm. She grew up raised by a noble Fae family, and so even though she's a human, and humans are like the lowest level of citizens in this world, people don't treat her as bad because she was raised by these Fae nobles. But something happens, and Tally starts seeing apparitions. She also sees like this gold mist, and she's able to see like what people are going to do a few seconds before they do it. And this is really freaking her out, because humans cannot have magic in this world. If a human is found to have magic, then they are killed for some reason, unbeknownst to me. I guess the Fae just don't want humans to have magic or whatnot. So she ends up leaving her Fae family and living on her own, and she uses the excuse that she's human and she doesn't want to put them through the grief of watching her age and die. That's the excuse she uses. So she's been living on her own for a few months at the beginning of this story, when her best friend ends up finding her, and he tries to convince her to come back and live with his family because he has a job for her. He wants her to help him get to this magical gate that separates the realms, because she's been going there, she knows how to get there, she knows the creatures that surround this gate, so he wants to pay her to be a guide. And if it was discovered that he knew she had magic, then his life would be in danger too. So it's a story of them rebuilding their friendship, all while trying to get to this magical gate and in the process discovering Tally's secrets that she's holding and secrets that the Fae realm has as well. So I really enjoyed this story. I thought it was a pretty different take on a Fae fantasy romance. Again, similar to The Witch Collector. It had a lot of similar themes that you've seen in Fae fantasy romances with like the different courts that the Fae do and stuff like that. But I liked that it had something different to add to it. It included like a lot of Fae magic, but it also included a lot of human technology as well within that magic. I liked the character dynamics. I really loved that this was a friends to lovers, not really lovers because they don't really get to that point in this book. So I'm sure in sequential books they eventually reach that lovers dynamic, but they do get to a somewhat romantic point in this book, and I liked that. It was a very slow burn progression. I will say these characters were kind of clueless and naive to the way that they felt about one another. Her best friend Sky, who is a Fae, he would be like, why am I looking at her so differently now? Why am I feeling this way? And I'm like, dude, it's because you're attracted to her. You love her. And then she would be like, we're just friends. Why am I suddenly noticing this about him? And I'm like, oh my god, you two are so fucking clueless. Just admit it already. You have feelings for each other. But I will say within that, I thought their banter was really great. They teased each other a lot of the time. And I really liked Sky's character because he is a Fae, but he's not like a brooding Fae with a tragic past like you normally see in Fae romances. He's very much a sunshine cinnamon roll character who loves to joke and tease Tally. And I do plan on to continue with this series because I liked enough of it to see where it goes. And the last book that I finished this week was Veins of Magic by Emma Hamm. This is the second book in her Otherworld series. It's also the second book in Eamon and Sorsha's relationship. So I did read the first book. I didn't do a weekly reads on it because you will see me read that book in a reading vlog toward the end of the month. So I didn't realize that that book was part of a duology following the same couple. So I had to jump right into this book to see how their story continued. And I can't really tell you much about where the story goes without giving away things in the first book. But I will say I liked the reunited love aspect in this one. I really liked Sorsha's character development. She is a take charge woman. She doesn't deal with Eamon's bullshit or anything like that. I really liked seeing more of the creatures in this story. I loved it. I loved the characters' chemistry. I loved their story. I loved their arc. I love the magic. I love the setting. This has like a haunted castle setting, which I really liked. So those were the 6 books that I read this week. Let me know down in the comments if you've read any of these, what your thoughts are on them. But if you don't want to comment that, but would like to let me know that you made it to the end of this video, could you leave me a wolf emoji? Because The Wolf King was my favorite book so far. And with that, thank you so much for watching, and until my next video, have a good reading week. Bye!